Welcome friends to another r/malicious compliance video. So I was checking my statistics and it turns out that only one of you guys aren't subscribed. So if you don't want to be the odd man out, make sure you hit the like and subscribe buttons down below. That said, our first story of the day is by Plunked. I know you have kids, but get it together. Alright. I worked at a popular Midwest grocery chain. I worked in the salad bar as the opener, meaning my duties were strictly the all-you-can-eat buffet we provided. This meant every day I'd swap food pans, wash dishes, prep stuff from scratch. I pretty much had free range of the bar as long as I kept the general theme. We had a taco side, a salad side, a fruit side, a dessert side, and cold salad like potato, coleslaw, etc. It would take me about 2, sometimes 3 hours total to get the bar done, depending on, well, how pissed off the store director was that day. Our department was the undesirable one. We worked in 40-degree or colder coolers with knives. Most people don't want to do that, I guess, but I absolutely loved it. Until we got this jerk hat of a store director. I still don't know what his problem is. He was rude, demanding, made advances to young women, bullied people, literally made people walk out. But for some reason, he and his minions saw nothing wrong with how he was running things. We were always understaffed. I was the full-time employee who had to work at least 40 hours, but wasn't allowed to get overtime. The other employees we had were teenage girls who, as much as I adored personally, they weren't the best of workers. We'd get the, alright, I'll just say it, dumb people. You know, ones who don't know their left from their right. Sweet people, but frustrating when you have higher-ups breathing down your neck and bothering you as to why your department isn't producing as much with garbage employees. Now, because I was a full-time employee, I asked my manager to give me 2 days off in a row every week, so I could spend 2 days with my kids. Nowhere in the employee handbook says you aren't allowed to do this, and frankly, it's no one's business when I take my days off or how I do it. But the day store director tried to chastise me for it. I'd been threatening to quit to my department manager, who was an old school friend of mine at the time. On top of the store director and his minions harassing everyone and being all around jerks, my manager was basically pretending to show up. Would clock herself in and leave to work her other job, leaving me to answer to everyone. And I'd also have to lie and cover for her. Essentially, she was getting paid $4 more than me to not even be there for me to do her job. So I was ready to leave at any given minute. Even our sister department, Produce, knew what was going on with me. So after my 2 days off one week, I come in to find our salad shelf completely empty. Great, I think. The closer didn't show up again. The closer was an older dumb lady who didn't know how to do much, so I was annoyed, but I didn't hire her to my department. I proceed to go to my cooler and start getting the bar out. The phone rings at 6 a.m. Wonderful. I pick up the phone and immediately get screamed at by the store director. Why is the salad shelf empty? I say, the closer didn't show up. And whose problem is that? I say, yours, since HR doesn't seem to know how or who to hire. They say, well, that's no excuse. Why haven't you been here? I say, excuse me? Why haven't I seen you in 2 days? I say, because those are my 2 days off this week. They say, you can't take consecutive days off in a row. That's horrible work ethic and you're lucky you still have a job. I say, excuse you? Where in the handbook does it say that? And this was the line that got me enraged. They say, I know you have kids, but get it together back there. I hung the freak up. I decided to message my department manager to let her know what was going on. She attacked me and said I was a horrible friend for wanting to leave her, and I let her have it too. I told her, you deal with nothing. You're never here to take the abuse. It's all me. Unless you're going to give me your pay, I'm not doing your job for you anymore. After that, I made one last phone call to the next person below the director to let him know what was going on. Not my problem, is it? He said when I told them people not showing up and doing their jobs isn't on me. So I did exactly what the store director said. I gathered my stuff and I left. Didn't tell a single person until one person messaged me and told me they were going to be late. I said, that's nice, and nothing else. They called me a week later, HR, and I let it go to voicemail. I was actually driving to an interview where I got hired immediately. They asked me when I was coming back. 7 days, and you still think I'm coming back? I found out from my ex-manager, whom we aren't really close anymore because of all this, that the store director ended up losing his wife, his kids, and was about to lose the store because his career destroyed everything. She still feels I betrayed her, but pretty sure she was committing fraud by what she was doing, and I'm not gonna go down for anyone. And I guess he sexually harassed one of his higher-up manager's moms and got into a lot of trouble for it. Our department ended up being swallowed by produce, and my manager ended up quitting a month after me. Basically, everyone who was full-time quit from the pressure, and now the quality of their products have gone down because they ship what should be made fresh in-store from 4 hours away. They're cutting costs and losing business. I don't think they'll ever shut down, but the reputation for having a helpful smile in every aisle is definitely not being used anymore. 2 consecutive days off a week is horrible work ethic. They do know that the standard is a weekend, right? I guess that's technically 2 different weeks because it's Saturday and Sunday, but it's still 2 consecutive days. If you were working a job where you were doing your manager's job for them on top of your regular responsibilities while they just left and went somewhere else to make even more money, would you be looking to quit as soon as you could? Let me know in the comments down below. Our next story is by Bada. You stay until the kitchen is cleaned. When I was 16, I worked at a fast food chain on a small island. Things are usually very quiet here. We take no more than 2,000 pounds in a day, 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. There's an event on the island that brings in a huge number of people from abroad, often doubling the island's population for a month. During the 2-week event, we were open until 11 p.m., with 1 hour at the end of each day allocating to cleaning and closing the store, bringing us until 12 a.m. midnight as our finishing time on a closing shift. During the event, there's a lot of drinking and a lot of people going for takeouts, so we get absolutely swamped. We even have to ship in staff from other stores in the UK to assist. More on that later. We'd close the doors at 11 p.m., but there would still be a huge queue of customers, which could easily take 30 minutes plus to get through, and then all of those customers are allowed to sit indoors until 12 a.m. when we can kick them out. But often, we didn't want to pick a fight with drunks, so we let them leave on their own accord. As you can probably imagine, this makes cleaning the store impossible by 12 a.m. The first night, we were there until about 1 a.m. The next night, it was closer to 2 a.m. When I asked the area manager about how we were getting paid for these extra hours, he said, "We don't. We were only to be paid until 12 a.m. as that was our shift on the rota." I said that I don't want to be working 2 to 3 hours each night, morning, for nothing, to which he replied, "You stay until everything's cleaned like everybody else. If I find out you leave without properly cleaning everything, we're going to have a problem." I went home, talked to my parents about it, and we made a plan. So on my next shift, it was chaos. Busier than I've ever seen it. Queue out the door and halfway up the street. We weren't able to start cleaning until at least 12:30. The place was a mess and it ended up being about 3:30 before I called my mom to come pick me up. I was wired on energy drinks just to keep awake, and when I got home, I couldn't sleep at all. And I was scheduled in for a 9 a.m. start the next current morning. I slept for about 2 hours before I had to drag myself out of bed to get ready for work again and operate pressurized fryers filled with around 350 degrees Celsius oil. What could go wrong, right? The reason I called for a lift home was so there was a record of it happening. And I also stood near one of the cameras so there was a recording with audio on the shop CCTV. The law where I live clearly states that anybody under 18 is required to have at least 8 hours away from the workplace in any 24-hour period. That obviously didn't happen, so they broke the law, and my mom knew this. She called up the area manager to ask him what happened. He basically repeated what he had said to me, and she mentioned to him about the law, and that by informing him of it, it's now 100% his responsibility, and he would be liable for anything that happened during my shift, whether that's property damage, injury, etc. She also said she'd be reporting it to the equivalent of a union. We don't have unions here. He was used to bullying the staff here, as most were teens or young adults who were scared to stand up to him. But he very quickly changed his attitude now that his neck was on the line. He called the local manager and told him to let me leave work for the day with full pay immediately and as soon as it hit 12 a.m. on the next closing shift. I was again ordered to go home, so no more working without being paid. Once the other staff got wind of this, they followed suit. This had another extra bonus for us all though, which was probably the sweetest part of this. Remember the staff they shipped over? Well, they all got early shifts, so they could go out and enjoy the partying that went on while we were all stuck in work until 3 a.m. They even had the cheek to come in because they had keys and have a dig at us taking so long, which resulted in an argument and one of them crying. Anyway, the cleaning that we weren't able to do then became their problem when they arrived in the morning, which meant they either had to start earlier or work like crazy to get the shop open in time, or they'd face the wrath of the area manager. Screw them and screw the area manager. I mean, regardless of the under 18 law, I don't think any place can force you to stay past what your actual work shift hours are. Like, how is some place going to actually come up to you and say, I know you're scheduled to leave at 12 a.m., but don't you dare leave here until this place is spotless. It's like, no, I'm scheduled till 12 a.m. If I'm here for an extra half an hour, so be it, but I'm not staying at a place till 2 or 3 in the morning when I already did what duties I'm supposed to do and I'm not getting paid for it. If they want you to stay 2-3 hours past your scheduled time, they need to pay you for that. And our final story of the day is by Shining Squirrel. Department head wants to micromanage and not allow IT to do its job. I'm being somewhat vague to protect the innocent, so this happened recently. I work for an entity that deals with the general public. We use an application internally but allow the general public to view the results on an external website. The way it works is the vendor runs a script that dumps our local database each night and uploads it to their server to be viewed on their hosted website. The issue is their software is poorly implemented. If the upload times out and only a partial file is uploaded, happens very frequently, the website will go down and display a message that it's down for maintenance. We then have to run the uploader manually, which can take several hours to complete, which means the site's down that whole time. Being in IT and trying to be proactive, I found a free service that would monitor the site for specific changes and send an email when the change was detected. It worked great, site went down, I received an email and could start the process to get it back up ASAP. This worked well for several years. One day, I get a call from another department that the site was offline before the monitor caught it, so I ran the utility to bring it back up. The department head had a fit. He said only he could notify IT the site was down and we were to do nothing until we explicitly heard from him to run the update utility. Fine, okay. His department had the contract for the app and it belonged to them. I cancel the monitor service. I no longer restart the app when it fails, but wait to hear from the department head. When a user contacts me to let me know the site's down, I tell them they have to call the department head and let him know, as I'm forbidden to help them. The site now can be down for most of the day before anyone notices it. The general public started complaining that the site's always down, which has made it all the way to the top. Department head has to deal with complaints from not only the general public, our own internal employees, but the top brass as well. Apparently, they're now looking for a new service provider as the vendor's been unable to fix the issue for several years. I had already told them that, but they didn't want to listen as I was able to keep the site up the majority of the time, so no one was complaining about it. FYI, the automatic update ran at 3 a.m. I would get a notification it failed around 4:30, so I would manually run the utility and have the site back up before the start of the business day. I sleep much better now. I mean, just the mere fact that OP was willing to wake up or get up or just handle this business at 4:30 in the morning, and OP said this happened very frequently, the company had a godsend the likes of which they didn't realize. That said, OP and their solution of bringing it back up as soon as they could doesn't trump the, obvious solution of just getting the problem fixed. But yeah, they didn't realize how good they had it going with OP. OP was the hamster wheel that kept that machine running. To me though, it does sound like they were kind of propping stuff up under this business to the point where it was probably pretty inevitable that it was going to topple over pretty hard. So in the end, even OP can't just save the day over and over. They gotta fix the problem eventually. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So of all these stories I've read today, which is your favorite and why? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you haven't yet, if you could like and subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. Whatever you do, whether it's liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, all of it helps grow this channel and I appreciate the heck out of it. So until next time, I'll see you all tomorrow with some more stories.